Hi, Mary Me. So I wanted to make this video to talk about a pet peeve of mine. And that pet peeve is this. So in some debate or another, I say, I'm religious. And I'm always tempted, you're Christian! Or you're Muslim! No, nothing wrong about either Christianity or Islam. But people act with complete shock when I say, no, I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim, I'm not a Jew, I'm pagan. And this annoys me. And some people even then protest. Oh no, but that's not being religious. That's being spiritual, it's not being religious. Being religious means that you're a follower of a religion. I am not a Wiccan as say I am Wiccanish. Basically, I do not consider myself fully Wiccan because there are things within the Wiccan faith that I do not agree with. But all in all, it's something pretty similar, and that is religion. You don't have to belong to one of the 5 biggest religions in the world to consider yourself to be religious. And this is actually something I'm getting rather pissed at, because yes, I know that most people who say I'm religious mean that they are Christian, Muslim, or Jews, because here in the West that's the most common. But for people to then react with complete shock or even protest it when I say I'm religious, and especially this happens when I debate with atheists, who says, oh, but all religious people are brainwashed and all of them say that you should not think of religious doctrine and blah 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 blah. So, no, this isn't correct. I'm religious, and within my religion, studying yourself is very encouraged. I mean, most of the leaders in our community say, don't only read my books, read a lot of books, meditate, figure things out for yourself, and if you come to different conclusions than me, great! You are advancing the field! Now, I think that it's the same in very many of the other religions as well. A lot of religions advocate people studying themselves. And of course, you have some groupings within established religions that do not, that have a hard and fast dogma, and that's it. If you question that dogma, you're bad. And I can understand criticism against that. However, to just then have a blanket statement, but religion does such and such and such and such and such, it's wrong, because there's a lot of religion that doesn't. And this ties also into my annoyance with but you're pagan, it doesn't count, there's a few pagans. It doesn't count, you can make a blanket statement because the millions of people who are pagan just don't count. I mean, granted, we aren't one of the 5 big ones. We don't have billions of followers, but there are several million pagans, and paganism, various forms of paganism, are actually one of the fastest growing religions in the world. How does it count? So, yeah, but I get this from other religious people too, and even from some pagans who say, oh, but it's not being religious, it's just being spiritual. Now, I consider myself to be both religious and spiritual. And I think you can be one or both or one or the other. I think it's completely possible to be religious and not be spiritual. That means you just follow the doctrines. You don't really bring it really into your life. You just follow the doctrines because your parents do. It's what society expects of you. Then you are religious, but you're not necessarily spiritual. Then you can be religious and spiritual, where you definitely consider yourself a follower of religion, and the spiritual part of it is extremely important. And you can be spiritual and non-religious. Either you don't follow a religion, or you don't really believe in something that could be classified as a religion, but you have very deep spiritual beliefs. But yes, if you are a follower of one of the pagan religions, then you are religious. Something doesn't stop being a religion if it doesn't have X number of million followers. You can make a religion yourself, where you have only one member and that's you, and it will be a religion. I think that a lot of people mixes up the ideas of organized religion with the concept of religion itself. Now, granted, the word religion is a bit contested. Not everybody agrees what it means. Now, I have a very broad definition of religion. My definition is that religion is any system of belief in something supernatural, something spiritual, something greater than yourself, that is given a prevalent place in your life. As such, by that definition, technically speaking, even occultism, all kinds of occultism actually would be religious in nature. But I do get that not everybody shares that opinion. Then you have those that feel that believing to a spiritual system of beliefs is religion. And some think that it has to worship a god for it to be religion. And as such, for example, Buddhism, who, while they do revere several figures, don't technically speaking worship something they consider a god to not be a religion. I completely disagree with that. I can understand those that say it has to be an organized system of faith that for it to be a religion, but not that it has to be worshipping a god. And then of course you have those who say that you have to worship a god and it has to be an organized form of religion. There has to be dogmas, there has to be churches or other, it has to be institutionalized. And I completely disagree with that too. But if you ignore all these definitions, the way I feel it, if somebody thinks they are religious, if they consider themselves to be religious, they're religious. And I guess this video is a bit rambling, but yeah, you don't have to be following one of the big religions to be considered religious. And it's sort of like a pet peeve of mine, because I feel at times that people look at me and say, oh, you're pagan, that doesn't count. And my spiritual beliefs are then downplayed. Now, like I said, I have never experienced a lot of discrimination because of my faith. I've gotten a few strange looks and a few jokes and like, where do you keep your broomstick? But basically, I haven't experienced a lot of discrimination. Most people are very open, and I'm also very open about it. But I think I do feel at times that it's marginalized, so that when I sit down and I whisper a table prayer, if I were Christian, everybody would be completely okay with it, but since I'm pagan, it's like, oh, I use some time on that. And I guess that's where my pet peeve comes in. I feel that when you look at people who say they're religious, if they don't follow one of the major religions, and you say, are you religious too? Is being pagan, is that being religious? That's just a spiritual belief. That is marginalizing it. Hell, it's just as important to me, my pagan faith, as a Christian's faith are to them. I consider myself to be very devout. I try to live my life according to the belief systems and the morality of the pagan faith I've chosen. It is the most important thing in my life, and I have just as much a right to call myself religious as somebody who considers themselves Christian or Jewish or Muslim, or for that matter Buddhists or Shintoists, any of the other large religions. Now, is it a spiritual faith as well? Yeah, of course it's spiritual. It's extremely and deeply spiritual. It is also a religion, and I don't take kindly to it being marginalized. Now, you can say, but is calling it a spirituality marginalizing? Not in itself. But when people say it like that, it's just a spiritual belief. That is marginalizing it. Saying it is a spiritual belief, that's not marginalizing it, because it is spiritual. But saying it is not a religion, it's just a spiritual belief, that's marginalizing it. And the same is when you say, oh, it's just some sort of New Age thing. I'm a New Ager, and I am proud of being a New Ager. New Ager me, yay! But, and I'm not saying anything wrong about the New Age faiths, and I think they are religious too. But to sort of just dump it in with everything that people... I know this coming up off terribly wrong, and I'm not, like I'm saying, many of those New Age faiths are wonderful, they're deep and they're religious. But to just dump any alternative faith into some sort of box and say it doesn't count, that's very disrespectful. And it doesn't matter if your faith is New Age, if it's pagan. If you consider yourself to be religious, you're religious. And I am a devout pagan woman. I'm proud to be a witch, and I'm religious. And to say otherwise is to insult me. Well, that was my little rant. Have a great day, and blessed be.